I suppose for me, mental health is not taken as seriously as physical health, but I would see it in the same way as if you've broken your leg or something, and your brain's sort of been damaged in an odd way, whether that's a chemical imbalance or something. I sort of would say it was a similar thing, but it manifests itself in a different way.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think people have control over mental health.
No.
As I think that people do. I think that society's attitude towards it is people have control over it more than physical health. I think that with mental health, there's a lot of worry of falling back into. I say if you have physical health, you don't worry about the fact that physical health is going to happen again. Whereas I think with mental health, as soon as you feel better, then you're more likely to be fearful of the next time that you're not going to, and then you kind of prepare for it. You know, like how when you have a cold, you can feel it at the beginning when you start to sneeze and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But like you can feel it creeping the same way as that.
Yeah.
But you can't like stop it. I think it's all to do with your perception of what's happening. So I'll start to understand things differently if I'm starting to feel sad.
Yeah.
So like interpret social situations wrong. I'll start to be a little bit more paranoid. Self-conscious,
and you're aware of it.
Yeah. Because in social situations where I would usually be comfortable, I'll start to feel less comfortable when I go into them, and then like start to withdraw a little bit. Yeah. And then you kind of withdraw your own personality a little bit. You don't want to be too loud and stuff.
It's horrible because you're aware of it, aren't you? I mean, I find myself being very aware of it, but you can't stop it. And it's also, for me, it's the more I think about it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the panic attack thing interests me because I haven't had a panic attack in years.
Oh really?
No, I haven't. I've started them, so they start arising. But I know I've learned so well now how to deal with them, is that I've always managed to keep them at bay. Yeah, and it's interesting when I tell people that, because people just assume that that's what an anxiety disorder is. They don't really get that it's something that you just deal with in conversations, deal when you go to the shops. They just think it's a moment rather than a lifetime. You know, like a lifelong thing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like people assume bigger of a panic attack than sometimes what a panic attack is as well. They expect someone who's got a paper bag, who's pacing around, like freaking out. Whereas like sometimes like I'll have a panic attack, it'll just be me. I'm like, breathe, and then I'll have to sit down, and like sometimes it'll go away with me, and that's when the crying, and it's kind of like you're actually panicking then, and then that's when you get short of breath. But that's rare because, like you said, you do learn to stop it at the beginning stages because you can't just let yourself blow up into panic attacks all the time.
I do get close to one every day, I think, at some point normally, but
mine varies. Like I don't think I get close to them every day. I have it after alcohol every time. I'll have panics then.
That's interesting.
It's a hangover. Anxiety is really bad for me.
Nearly everyone I know who's got anxiety has that from booze because it's a depressant. Yeah. I think for me, I can get very aggressive.
Oh really?
Yeah, I get very aggressive. I get very ratty. It's quite interesting. So rather than saying that, because I don't really have panic attacks anymore, it ends up with me being very argumentative or quite aggressive towards someone, and that seems to be how and it's terrible because then actually it's a horrible cycle because I've lashed out at someone, and then obviously then I start feeling anxious about how they think I'm a knob.
Why don't hate me? I feel like it's quite a selfish disorder internally, as in terms of like, if I get really, really bad, the worse I get, the more egotistic I get, so the more that I see things through my own lens.
I think guilt is an interesting subject anyway for people with anxiety. I think a lot of people that suffer from anxiety disorders have a weird complex around guilt, even in no regard to their anxiety.
I wouldn't even, maybe not attention seeking. I just think people think that you're just a bit like dramatic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little bit like, I think people have been a bit like, oh, like, princess.
I've been very angry in the past when I've been accused of wanting a mental health problem. I think that was the worst thing I'd heard.
You've been accused of that?
Well, about because it's trendy or something, and I've got very cross and said, you've got no idea what it's like to live with this for most of your life. Like, I get quite upset thinking about it actually, because I think that was the worst experience I've had telling a stranger. Yeah.
And also, I don't know about you, but when I first went to the doctors, the first thing that happened was they did diagnose drugs for it straight away, and then I got put on like a 10-month waiting list for therapy or something.
What I do now is I take Valium in emergencies, so that's what I tend to calm down. Like recently I had to take 3 days where I just sat and had Valium and just stared, because that keeps me calm. It's difficult for me in terms of the drug thing as well, because a lot of my anxiety comes from drug abuse recreationally. So I used to do a lot of, when I first started getting the diagnosis, diagnosed, when I first started getting the panic attacks and realising I would then try and self-medicate by getting drunk, taking a lot of cocaine and taking things that were awful for anxiety, and I wasn't realising the cycle it was having.
I think trying to explain the constant feeling and the constant kind of like just having that underneath you all the time, just trying to push it down, I think that's quite hard, because I think unless you've been in a situation where you've had something that you've been fighting constantly, it's quite hard to explain to someone like an element of your personality that you're trying to repress effectively. The shame and the stereotypes of mental health will continue until people start admitting that they've got mental health issues when they've got them. But people are so concerned about not telling people they've got it, and it's protecting themselves, that they're not protecting the wider society. Because at the end of the day, there's a problem. If everyone's getting mental health a lot more now, it's probably because we don't have community anymore, we don't have neighbours, we are really removed from social situations now. Like, people rely on technology way too much. Like, loads of things that happen in our society breed someone that's going to have mental health illness more than someone who had like security and a simpler life.
You don't need to have an excuse. Like, you don't need to like justify your mental health. And I think you may be right. Yeah, people feel like they need to. Oh, I was abused as a child, or this happened to me. This is why I'm like. Otherwise, it's a thing of privilege and feeling guilty that you're privileged enough to have a nice life, but for some reason it's still there.
I think it's going to take a movement of like probably another generation where people will just are like not ashamed / proud to just be like, I'm not alright, I need help. And then the more people that do it, the more normal it will become, and the less stigma they'll be attached to it. It will just naturally happen. Because if it's a quarter of people, that's a lot of people.
There's not enough education of when someone can work out when they're not feeling very well. Do you understand what I mean? Like, so if there was even more stuff like at your doctor's about mental health, or online, or a lot more programs. I mean, there are programs, but a lot more, then people, when they are starting to feel unwell,
maybe recognise
it quicker before it gets worse as well.
I just don't think it's been explored far enough yet. I know that they are doing more about it and they're putting more funding into it, and mental health is becoming a priority. And time's changing, which is great. But I think that in the interim of that, like while that's kind of progressing, that's when you kind of need to rely on people to tell their stories and not be ashamed to tell their stories, so that you can actually overcome the stereotypes and the stigma, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening. It's going to be the same.